Tonight on Tired Nation.
Face-off between United Nations and New South Wales Government as inspectors denied access to Queanbeyan courthouse cells. This time we look at a regional Australian point of view. Last time we looked at The Guardian. This will have a slightly different edge, but will cover the same topic. It's been confirmed 7 United Nations representatives were refused access to Queanbeyan courthouse cells when they arrived for a surprise inspection. A corrective services spokesperson said the group was turned away on Tuesday night, the 18th of October 2022, as they did not have prior approval. They were a delegation of the United Nations Subcommittee on Prevention of Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. New South Wales Corrections Minister Jeff Lee was questioned about the visit on 2GB on Thursday, 20th of October 2022, when he claimed the inspectors had turned up without uniforms or identification. The whole role of our jail system is to keep people safe. It's not to just allow people to wander through at their leisure, he said. Coming to Queanbeyan, turning up and demanding to be let in is beyond the pale. He said the jail system was highly regulated by both state and independent agencies, and that he felt that it was unnecessary for them to also be inspected by the United Nations. We run a safe and orderly system here. We don't torture people. Why should our taxpayers have to foot the bill for the United Nations to come to Australia? Mr. Lee asked. You run a safe and orderly system and you don't torture people? What if that weren't true? Aren't they better off going somewhere like Iran? But comments such as this have been slammed by Australia's Human Rights Commissioner, Lorraine Finlay. She said claims by the New South Wales Government around funding and that the inspections were redundant were simply not true. The New South Wales response is disappointing. First, the United Nations visit is self-funded. Second, no other state government has raised any objections. And third, if existing prison scrutiny in New South Wales means the United Nations inspections is redundant, why not let them in and show the rest of Australia how New South Wales is leading the way, Ms. Finlay said. And I couldn't agree more in that if you've got nothing to hide, which is what they always say to you, well, it's acting like they've got something to hide. And it might also demonstrate that what they're arguing over is very specific to what they're trying to hide. New South Wales Attorney General Mark Dreyfus KC had announced the delegation's arrival to the country on Monday 17th of October 2022 as a part of the OPCAT, which was ratified by the Turnbull government in 2017. While his office wouldn't speak directly to the Queanbeyan incident, a spokesperson for Mr. Dreyfus' office said no state or territory had objected to the ratification at the time. Since that decision, Australia has been required to facilitate visits to detention facilities by a team from the United Nations, they said. This was the first visit by the subcommittee who would inspect prisons and other places of detention. So what we can see from the difference to the Guardian reporting on this is that this now directly involves all places of detention, not just detention centres. This includes any place of incarceration, including mental health within the hospital. This would include a jail, this would include detention centres, this would include any place where prisoners are being held. On Monday, Mr. Dreyfus said the group would spend a week visiting places of detention run by the Commonwealth, states and territories. So the United Nations, through agreements made with Malcolm Turnbull, which ratified further agreements made at Hague, Geneva, and etc., are being managed and put into play on your soil. Think about why that would be allowed to occur in the first place. I would like to thank the governments of Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, the Northern Territory and the ACT for their cooperative approach to facilitating visits by the delegation, he said. Yet his state denied those visitations, as did Queensland, who he is thanking here, who also made comments relative to why they made a decision to deny those visitations. This visit complements Australia's existing regulatory bodies and is an important part of honouring our international commitments. So the words that he has used demonstrate that he is obligated, he is committed, he is in convention or treaty. So the Law of Nations speaks about a country that doesn't follow its treaties opens itself up to war because it demonstrates to other countries that it doesn't follow its treaties. In answer to questions by region, his office said New South Wales was the only jurisdiction not to cooperate, after saying that they were honouring the international commitments. All states and territories except New South Wales agreed to facilitate the current visit and uphold Australia's international obligations, they said. So here we have an Attorney General of New South Wales speaking on behalf of New South Wales, thanking the other states for complying with their commitments, but then negating to commit themselves. When questioned about the visit by media on Tuesday, New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet said the United Nations representatives would not be allowed into any correctional facilities until a number of concerns had been addressed. Well, it could be said on the other side that there are concerns about your facilities by people within your own country, Dominic Perrottet. And you're ignoring those concerns because of statements you've already made about who's being kept safe. There are safety and operational concerns from corrections, and in addition to that, this is a requirement from the federal government without being any funding requirements or considerations in place, he said. So it's a money thing for you as an Attorney General rather than a justice thing. He pointed out that there were already measures in place to ensure the state's places of detention were up to scratch. We have a custodial inspector in place and we have an ombudsman in place, Mr. Perrottet said. Region contacted both the United Nations itself and its Australian branch for comment. So, the New South Wales Attorney General is trying to find a very big excuse as to why members of his Justice Department have denied the United Nations, while under international convention or treaty and a commitment that is required of this Australian government, being international peacekeeper and administrator under the rules of usufruct. The Attorney General gone made big mistake.
Winks. and the creeps.